Hello, welcome to the DraftCast. This time we have the reigning champ with us, hoping to get some pod luck to get himself back up the league standings. How's it going, Jack?
Hi, Luke. Thanks for having me. I could very much do with some of that pod luck.
Yeah, I mean, you did all right this week, to be fair, but it is odd seeing you down in 10th for the moment.
Yeah, it's been a battle to start, and obviously you've always got to try and remember it's a marathon, not a sprint. But there has been times when the panic button has nearly been pressed, but a couple of good weeks in the last three, so hopefully this is a turning point.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we'll do a couple of usual things. So look at the league table, maybe a bit of an update on the El Presidente Cup. A couple of questions about your team, just to mix things up, and then you've brought your segment, and we'll go over that at the end. And I think it's a new one for this season of the DraftCast, so it'll be interesting to see what people think of that. So yeah, we'll go to the league table, and interestingly, bit of a diverse week, I would say. Was 5 people in the 40s, and then everybody else almost quite struggling this week, you could say, almost.
Yeah, it was a tough week because obviously when Chelsea and City kind of play each other in this, a lot of obviously people will have City and Chelsea players, and that's a 1-0. That's always going to kind of diminish because you're kind of banking on one of those two teams, both of those teams in a lot of game weeks to probably win 2-0 and score a few goals. So that kind of muddles things up straight away. There's a few kind of weird results as well. But yeah, a mix this week. I think I was that 95th minute Brighton goal. I would have ended up on, I think, 53 or something. So that was the closest I think got to breaking 50. But yeah, a lot of interesting results, especially obviously with the group stages of the cup done.
Yeah. So we've now we've finished the group stage, haven't we? And we've had 4 people eliminated, which is Tolly, Rich, Lawrence, and Jim, I believe.
Yeah, it was always going to be an uphill battle for Jim and Rich, to be fair, as well. And we kind of spoke about it briefly before, but obviously that group A, only one person would have got through if they were in Group B.
Yeah.
So it does kind of go that way sometimes. Yeah, I think just look obviously the last week's scores. I mean, James needed a really big week. Only managed 25. Which obviously a bit of a shame for him. Obviously having Rudiger on his side, no Cleany there, and the Leicester struggles ongoing. Maddison and Barnes didn't pick him up much. And then there's a too many 1-pointers in there with one of his big strikers in Calvert-Lewin injured too. And then obviously myself climbing over Lawrence. It was kind of a bit of a torrid time for him attacking wise and defensively. He had Diaz for 5, but then again Leicester struggles, so 1 point between those two defenders for him. And Brighton play at 1 point, and then only 1 point from his striker too, which allowed me to kind of sneak in the back door and just about squeeze my way through into the next round.
Yeah, well, that's how the cup goes, isn't it? It's a shame that the Lawrence doesn't get to defend his title, but yeah, I'm sure he's not. I'm not sure he's not worried about it in Greece at the moment.
Yeah, I mean that Villa did look lovely. I'm slightly envious, to be fair.
Yeah, we've got poor old Rich at the bottom again with 23, lowest of the week.
Yeah, I was looking at his side, and I can see. I understand what he says when he feels he's got the points there. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously Ronaldo, that's going to be great. People like Sancho, a lot of people would have killed for him, and he's not really playing. He hasn't kind of registered a goal or an assist yet. Obviously, Luke Shaw getting injured as a killer. Burnley usually pretty nailed on for a fair few clean sheets. I don't think I've kept one yet. Leicester, another Leicester defender, struggled. And then, when you've got a combined out of 4 players on your bench, 0 points across the board, it gives you no room for error. So yeah, I can see it though. I think he's got a much better side than last year, but it's just obviously what change does he make to kind of kick on, or whether he just keeps the faith, and then things do click.
Yeah.
Which is obviously what he's hoping for.
Well, hopefully time will tell, and hopefully it will pick up for him, because we don't want to see. I don't want to see him come in bottom again this year.
Well, again, another strong week for you, top scoring this week.
Yeah, only just with you and Max behind. So, but yeah, me, Will, and Max are sort of a good 20 points ahead now, but none of us are really making big headways to get away from each other. So, but it's interesting.
Shame you would have had obviously that Vardy and goals kind of cost you a mammoth score from him.
Yeah,
so Decore a big 11 points, which is good. And Pinnock against Liverpool, that's probably 7 points you weren't expecting to pick up.
No.
I think another strong showing from yourself.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with my team at the moment. There's just like a couple defending players I need to sort out, but not much else I really see myself focusing on at the moment. So, but
it's a lot harder to work the waivers this year, because obviously there's such a. It's different, I think, last year with less people, that you can kind of drop one of your fringy players and still be confident that you can either get them back maybe in a few weeks, or that you can pick up someone that's on a par with that. Whereas now, if you're dropping a player that you think's good but they're underperforming, you let them go and you climb the table a little bit and they start playing well, someone underneath you's going to snap them up and you're not going to see them again. So it's really hard decisions every week, I think.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else worth pointing out, really.
What else was I looking at?
I mean, Max is still killing it, and fair play to him. He's done his research. So it's impressive, I think. But
Rafinha playing kind of out the blue and then scoring is obviously the way kind of his season's gone so far. When things are going for you, they're going. Shame obviously about Reece James getting injured. I'm not sure how long. I think that could be a little bit of time because it's a muscle injury. Chelsea have done so well defensively. Having three of those players has just every week just been a points churning exercise, and then he needs a few players to pick them up. And then obviously Gabriel Jesus had a really good start to the year, kind of reinvented himself on the right wing. Jarrod Bowe of West Ham looks really good. And then a player like Ashley Westwood, who is typically a 2-point merchant and doesn't really do a lot. And he got an assist as well. And Pogba's red hot start to the season. So he's definitely kind of firing on all cylinders to start the league year.
Yeah. No, he definitely can't be complaining at the moment.
Yeah, I think Ben's kind of fallen down the league slightly as well, which I didn't kind of take in until I looked obviously at the table, and I was surprised to see him second bottom. I think Fernandes getting 0 points with a missed penalty is something you never really expect to happen.
No.
And also Maguire, I think, is injured for a few weeks, as Adam pointed out earlier. So I think he might have to look at a few options maybe to shake things up a bit.
Yeah, I imagine there's a few people wanting to shake things up. But again, I'm not seeing too many trade offers going out this week so far, but who knows? We might see some before Friday.
I think the only other note I had on the league is that it is still obviously so tight. I mean, again, Rich is a little bit off the pace at the minute, but obviously still a long season. But then down in 10th myself and 60 odd points off the top, which between 10 places really isn't an awful lot of points. So I think that is a trend that I think we are going to see this season. Just with the spread of players around the league, it's going to be a lot tighter. I don't think you're going to see those huge gaps forming between kind of like the top and mid table. So I think there's probably going to be whoever finishes hottest, I think, is going to have a real good shout winning it if you can get yourselves in and around that kind of top 5 to 4 positions come crunch time.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great when it's like the final week and there could be like from anyone from 1st to 6th in the position to win it. That would be insane week to follow. So
I think we'd all have to watch it together if that happened, because it'd be absolute pandemonium. The live reactions. I mean, that's if ever there's a live pod opportunity, I think that's definitely the one. The live stream.
Yeah, no, that would be it would be chaos. So we'll keep an eye out and see what happens. But I think we'll move on just quickly, just to go over your team a little bit. I mean, you've already touched on it a little bit, but I guess it's a bit of a bitter taste with quite a good score this week, but you've still got a ton of points sat on your bench, so that must be difficult to look at.
Yeah, the Smith Rowe one, just every time I stare at it, I'm just willing it to jump into my team.
Yeah.
It was obviously, I'm very glad that Tottenham got a goal in the end, because a clean sheet would have been another 2 points for Smith Rowe, and obviously a load more for Tomiyasu, and that really would have been a bitter pill to swallow. And again, that late Brighton goal cost me, I think, about 6 points or so. So it was almost the big week that could have been, but obviously still pleased. It's just, the best thing is that front three that I kind of invested a lot of draft capital in at the start of the year, and they all scored for the first time. So I'm hoping for Aubameyang and Jimenez, that's a bit of a corner turn. Because if I am going to do well this year, those three need to kind of be as good as they have been, or thereabouts, in previous years. Obviously, having the Grealish and Foden pairing is good, but it's just so hard to know who to pick each time. And against Chelsea, it was always going to be, maybe I should have gone for Smith Rowe over two of them, but it's hard to drop both of them. Then, apart from that, the ongoing Leicester struggles are a thorn in my side defensively, having Schmeichel and Castagne. So I've got to think about that, really. But Gallagher's been a bright spot for me, someone I didn't really expect I'd be having in my team this year, and seems to perform well so far. But can't complain. In the 40s and through in the cup, so I'll definitely take it. It's progress.
Yeah. So one of my questions I've got for you is, who do you think is underperforming for you?
The first one that jumps off the page, I think, is definitely Schmeichel. I think got any clean sheet? I don't think they've got any. They've got one clean sheet so far, and the teams they've played, I really would have kind of expected more. I mean, they got a clean sheet first game of the season. They've played Wolves, West Ham, Norwich, Man City, Brighton and Burnley. I mean, I really would have wanted kind of 3 clean sheets out of that, ideally. He's picked up a few save points, but not loads. Castagne, again, he was injured, but he's not like, they don't seem to be starting him. Whether now, because they're struggling, they might start starting him, I'm not sure. But those two have been a big disappointment. Digne, obviously, the own goal last week's a killer, and at the time it kept loads of clean sheets, so he's slightly underperformed. But I think that he'll be fine. I think he's, because he takes set pieces and he's too good going forward. Probably Schmeichel and Castagne even, probably, for me. Not cutting it so far.
Fair enough. I was half expecting Grealish to come up there, but Schmeichel. Yeah, because I had Schmeichel last year, but I don't know. Yeah, Leicester probably might be struggling this year, maybe for the clean sheets, but it's a long way to go, isn't there?
Yeah, I think Grealish, he's got 3 points or above in every game week apart from the first one, and he's got, I think, a goal and assist, or a couple of goals and assists, something like that. So it's like, it's not amazing, like it's not setting the world alight, but he's still picking up those chunk points week in, week out. And I do think Pep seems to love him, so I do think he'll have a couple of big weeks and stuff.
Yeah.
He's been okay. I haven't been massively impressed, but at the same time, the Leicester defenders have probably done worse for me. Okay,
and then sort of the reverse question: who's performing better than you expected they would?
Yeah, I think I touched on it earlier. Gallagher obviously picked him up after the 15-point week, and I was like, is this one of those ones where someone scores a couple goals and they get sucked in and they don't do anything? But I've been watching him. He does look really good. He's young. He's all over the place. And then since I picked him up, he's got 8 points, 2 points, and 4. And obviously in a Palace team that don't score loads of goals, he seems to be at the heart of what they're doing. So he's someone that I've picked up kind of out of nowhere. And I think that if he can keep it going, he could be quite a important part of my side. Then Sam Maximum, I wouldn't say he's massively overperformed, because again, he's kind of, bar Wilson, all Newcastle have going forward, but he's scored 5 points or above every game week bar 1. But my concern is whether he stays fit, because he's so injury prone. But those two have been the ones that have kind of held it all together for me so far and been consistent point scorers.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Do you think, looking at the fixtures this week, they're favourable for you?
Generally, yes. I think for my front three, again, they're good. So Maximan's got Wolves, Alba's got Brighton, and Jimenez has Newcastle. Obviously, and that gives me a little bit of a fixture clash between Marcel at the back, Jimenez, and St Maximin. So I'm going to be probably disappointed in one sense there. But then, yeah, my Arsenal, I know Brighton have started well, but I still fancy Arsenal on a bit of run of form now against Brighton. It is a shame City are playing Liverpool. I think that's going to be tough. And then Everton are playing United, so it's tough for Digne. So the matchups I like, and I've probably got more than half that I like. And obviously Leicester got Crystal Palace. So, I mean, again, another clean sheet opportunity. But there are definitely a few ones in there that I'm not loving. So probably 60, 70% happy, I'd say, at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. That's all I've got. Question-wise for your teams this time. Can't.
Awesome.
Yeah, nothing else sticking out to me. What's your thoughts on your second keeper not doing anything at the moment? Is that just a unfortunate consequence of having 12 people, or are you looking to do something about it?
It was, when I got him, it was a gamble, because obviously he was playing more than De Gea last year, and then he got COVID just before the start of the season. And De Gea seems to be playing quite well, and he looks quite settled. And Henderson's being played in the cup, so it could be a case of that he is just back to number 2, and he's not going to play. Obviously, then again, Schmeichel not really doing a lot is frustrating. But yeah. I will probably just keep him there for now, and kind of see what happens on that front. It's not looking great that he's going to be playing. But I mean, again, I think there isn't really much out there in terms of keepers, so it's more just either hoping Schmeichel comes good or swinging a trade. But I think that keepers, obviously, if you have one of the big keepers, all the ones that perform really well, it is a really good, valuable weapon. But when I didn't really have the opportunity to get one of those, so then your keeper's probably not going to be one of the bigger parts of your squad unless you prioritise them early on. Which I didn't, so I think I'll just stick with what I've got for now. But we'll see.
Okay, right. I think we'll move on and do your segment.
Yes.
Let's, try something a bit different, shall we?
Perfect. So I wanted to do a little bit of a segment looking at the trends that are starting to emerge, because obviously now we're further enough into see trends, but they can kind of be fake trends, or not fake, but ones that only run short course of the season. I wanted to kind of dig into just a few, not loads, and kind of talk about whether I think they're going to last or whether I think this is just a bit of a fluke, as it were. And then obviously kind of open them up and get your thoughts as well. See what everyone thinks about them.
Okay.
So I'll crack on with the first one. The first one, the much documented struggles of Harry Kane. Now, Harry Kane's fantasy struggles will continue, and he won't be a top 10 point scorer this year. True or false? So I kind of looked a little bit at this, and obviously he was taken second, I believe, by Tolly. And he had 242 points. He was the second top scorer. And this year he has 7 points in 6 games and no goals or assists. And as a top 3 draft pick, I mean, they have to be like your player that scores you a lot of points. And I kind of was weighing this up in my mind. And I think I've come to the conclusion. So I basically think that he is one of the most consistent fantasy point scorers ever. He's scored 17 plus Premier League goals every year since 2014.
Wow.
Which is crazy. That's basically since he started playing. And the season before that, he played 3 games. So he also has a history of starting the season slowly. There was not maybe last year, the year before, but a bit of a running joke that Harry Kane doesn't score in August when the season starts. So he's always kind of started slowly, and I think his transfer saga that waged on into the summer was maybe a bit of a Euros hangover, lots of football. And obviously you're adding a new manager with a new system into it, which takes a bit of time to get used to. And he didn't join up with the side till very late. So I've come to the conclusion this one is false. I think he will be a top 10 point scorer. I actually think he'll finish in the top 5 point scorers. And the caveat to this is if Tottenham continue to struggle and not create him chances, because he hasn't been picking up a lot of touches in the box, that is the only thing I think that can damage that. But I also think if Tottenham are massively struggling halfway, 3/4 of the way through the season, I don't think the manager's going to last because they'll change it.
Yeah.
But I do think that this is just a speed bump in the road. I think he's been too good for too long, so consistent that I think he will come good. And when he starts firing, he tends to score goal after goal after goal. But he does need to start doing something because I think that's going to cause some problems for T's potential title hopes, if not.
Yeah, definitely.
It'd be interesting to see what you think.
I'm probably going to go with the same as you. I think he'll turn it around, but I'm not sure if he'll be top 5. He could, potentially he might only just get into the top 10 because the longer he leaves it to actually start doing anything, the harder it's going to be for him to keep up with those that are, your Salahs, etc. So, yeah.
Yeah, very fair point. I think again, it needs to click soon because it's going from a slow start to the season to near the temperature is rising on the concern around his lack of point scoring performances. So I think I'll move on to my next one now. True or false? Brentford's defence is legit and they will finish as a top 6 defence in the league. So, Brentford, weirdly enough, have 3 clean sheets, which is joint 3rd most, I believe. And then before the Liverpool game, they'd only let in 2 goals, which would be the 2nd fewest in the league. They made a good start to the season. They look good. They look frisky. Obviously, a big draw with Liverpool shows they can run with the big boys. And it's kind of, in a fantasy sense, are you buying in, do we buy into Brentford as maybe like a Wolves of these teams before that maybe aren't the biggest for names and star power, but ones that can consistently pick you up points? And should we be looking at Brentford players? Because there's a few in the agency and they're all towards the top point scorers for ones available.
Yeah.
Do we kind of look at them or not? So with Brentford, promoted teams generally don't perform well defensively. Obviously, it's a big step up. You look at obviously teams like your Norwiches and Watfords and Villa when they came up. Historically, they don't do well defensively. Promoted teams. Sheffield United are probably the most recent good kind of exception to that. And again, whether they kind of crashed out since is very rare. They had a relatively soft start to the season. Their clean sheets came against Palace, Arsenal when they were very much struggling and had COVID issues. No Aubameyang or Lacazette in that game, and also Wolves, who again have started slowly and not scored loads of goals. I also think that they're hence why a lot of them are kind of in the agency. They have a not very attractive run at the moment, and they have got through one of them, but again, they conceded 3 goals in that game. They've got West Ham and Chelsea coming up, but then it does soften a bit with Leicester, Burnley, Norwich, Newcastle, and some others. But I think that they've also played, as I've just said, they played 1 very high quality side and conceded 3, and for those reasons, I think this is also false. I don't see them being that Wolves, Sheffield United, really hard to break down solid side. But I'm not sure what you thought.
I haven't watched them in the Championship or anything, so I've not, it's the first time I've seen them as a team. I'm not sure if them, doing well in their early games is going to keep them lifted, so they might overperform for now. But yeah, top 6 defense, that would be some feat, I would say.
Yeah,
it's definitely possible. I think they've shown they could do it. It's just whether they can maintain the level all the way through the season. So it'd be an interesting one to see.
Yeah, they've been impressive. Like that, again, this is why it's kind of. I mean, they have the top 3 available free agents for points in the league currently, and 2 of them defenders in fantasy. Yeah, to reach that kind of, I think they're 3rd or so now, kind of defensively. They're joint 3rd in the amount of clean sheets. So yeah, they would have to be that kind of that Wolves level side of when Nuno was there to kind of break into that top 6 for clean sheets. But yeah, I think this has just been a good start to the season. But I think over the next 10 or so game weeks, we'll start to kind of suss them out a little bit more. I think that, once a very good side comes up against them, like a Liverpool, I think it shows that they are probably a little more open than they've led on to be.
Yeah.
Start, but very impressive, Brentford. Actually, a good side, it seems. There's definitely some options in there, fantasy-wise, between Tony, who seems a good goal scorer, and obviously their defence has been good, and Ray is picking up save points. So definitely one of those teams that I think people will end up with more players than not in across the league in their sides. So, yeah. So the next one I wanted to go on to Burnley. Everyone's lovable shithouses, Burnley, are in a little bit of bother so far to this season. So the true false I've gone for is that Burnley are in danger of being relegated. They're currently 19th, no wins, concede the 4th most amount of goals, no clean sheets, which is what they're known for. And the flip side to that is that they've started slowly before. Sean Dyche knows they have a consistent squad. They've played together for a long time. Burnley away is a hard place to go, and people talk about it still one of the kind of tougher places to go and actually get points and like who you are. And Sean Dyche, imagine, is always going to have them set up to compete. Plus, you have over the years 2 strikers in Wood and Barnes that, although they're streaky, score you goals in patches. But having said that, I think that they're not making signings. I mean, I looked and Cornet, their new signing, who's their record signing, I believe he was signed for 15 million, which is for a Premier League side that's been in there for years is an insanely low amount when you look at the type of money that's being thrown about nowadays. That it just feels that they're a lot behind in terms of their resources, even though they have been taken over recently. They're not making those signings. So again, the kind of consistency they have now could be becoming an issue in terms of the squad is going stale and getting a bit older. They're not keeping clean sheets, which is the big concern, because that is kind of their bread and butter. They will beat teams 1-0, 2-0, 2-1. They're hard to break down. And then obviously I know I said they do tend to operate in bursts, but so far it hasn't happened with Wood and Barnes. So they need to kind of get going. And I think that with added firepower in the league and teams like Brentford coming in and looking lively, I think that this is true. I am concerned about Burnley this year. Although we say this every year, but I feel like this could be their year that they finally drop out after a very, very good run of overperforming for so long.
Yeah, there's no, like, you think you've covered everything there, so there's no way I can really not agree with you.
I do this to myself a lot though every year, and then they do this thing where they will go and keep 4 clean sheets in 5 games, and then as he did last year, Chris Wood will just start scoring week in, week out, and then they're suddenly sat in kind of 13th, and you're thinking, oh, what we worried about, Burnley will be fine.
Yeah,
but yeah, I feel like there's enough kind of there this year to really get some problems.
I guess it's the same thing as the Kane though. The longer they leave it, the harder it's going to be for themselves to actually get out of that zone. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that they are lucky as well in terms of the Norwich look really bad. Watford have shown a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but I don't trust them either. I think Southampton have started really slow. Wolves had a big win, obviously, and they weren't looking too great. So there's teams that they're not kind of falling too far away from the pack in terms. I think they have a chance, but it's just the arrow is pointing down currently, I think.
Okay.
So the third one I have, this one's for George. West Ham are a genuine threat to the Big Six and will finish 5th or better this year. So they're currently 7th. They finished 6th last year. They are doing really well. They have Antonio, who's a top point scorer, which is obviously huge for them. They look really good. They look like Benrahma has started fantastically. Antonio is the top goal scorer and the second most when it comes to assists, which obviously when you have a guy like that, you can rely on both in a fantasy sense and a normal sense. Now, they've obviously made a really good start this year again. Having said that, they are playing in the Europa League, which is nearly always has an impact on squads that perform well one year. They don't perform particularly well the year afterwards, usually because of the extra games, and also because the Europa League is generally for sides that aren't quite as big as the traditional top six, so they struggle in terms of depth and being able to rotate. So when injuries happen, they hit them a bit harder. They haven't really played any of the big teams yet, apart from United, which they lost. They beat them in the cup straight afterwards, but they lost. However, the mulling it over, I think that they've found their striker in Antonio, and for those big sides that want to perform well, that you need that when you're not traditionally part of that top six, you need like a Jamie Vardy, and a goal scorer that is just going to carry you through some games when you're being Burnley basically, and you're finding it hard to break a side down. You need that bit of quality up top. They have quality in each position group. Jared Bowen is a player that's been really good so far. Benrahma, I think Zuba was a really good signing. Cresswell, Soufal. And I also think that Arsenal and Tottenham, two of the traditional top six, obviously have started poorly. They look a bit of a mess. And then Leicester and Wolves and the normal outsiders that challenge that top six, again, don't look quite up to it this year. So I think that this is true. I could see West Ham finishing 5th or better. But I think this is all dependent on whether that man Antonio can stay fit and keep them firing, and the Europa League doesn't have impacts on injuries.
Okay, I could see that. I could see that happening. Definitely.
Which would be great, because I think that George would be in dreamland if they were having another late Champions League run, which I would very much like to see. So the second last one. Manchester United are legitimate title contenders and will finish 1st or 2nd. Too much has been made of their splashy moves in the transfer window for CR7, for Sancho, for Varane. And they have obviously had good start to the season. They've only lost once. They're in that they're only a point off the top. They're not conceding loads. They've scored the second most. They finished 2nd last year. Obviously, with Ronaldo, they have that guy that's kind of eluded them a little bit, a real proper goal scorer, to add that bit of quality up front. But then, as has been much discussed on the group chat, I think they have serious issues with their manager in terms of they're quite reliant on their star players, of your Fernandez's and your Ronaldo's, to come up with, and Pogba, to come up with some magic, as opposed to kind of a clear plan and structure that you see with maybe Chelsea and Tuchel. I think that all the big four have made really good moves to their squads. Liverpool may be the exception, but getting Van Dijk back is almost like a new signing in itself. And obviously City and Chelsea, what they've done to their squads is pretty frightening. And I think that they have pedigree over recent years of being able to do it. And United, I haven't seen it. So I think that this is also false. I don't think they'll finish first or second. I think City and Chelsea so far look a bit of a cut above the rest. Liverpool just behind them. And then I think there's a little bit of a gap then between the next. I think if anyone in that top four is going to be fighting for their Champions League spot, maybe to West Ham, I think it could be United.
Yeah, it's interesting. Because he has scored a couple goals, hasn't he already, Ronaldo? But like I
think he's made a great start.
Yeah, like me and Adam discussed is like, I think it was Adam's, whether he's going to be playing in the Prem games all season, but he seems to be so far.
Yeah, I think we'll see as the season goes on and fixtures start to pile up. He'll be rested a bit more. He'll obviously play in all their big games, but they're going to want him for the Champions League as well. And I just think, as great and ageless as he is, you have to rotate him a little bit. And they have options that can play there. Cavani's obviously someone that can score. But if he's going to have to score them north of 20 goals if they want any chance really to kind of compete with the rest, because I think there are still some holes in that squad. But yeah, sorry, Rich, I'm not believing in United, I'm afraid. Okay. And then the last one. So the mighty Mo Salah will finish atop the pack as the highest point scorer in fantasy this year. Now he has a pretty insane pedigree and is currently the current top point scorer in fantasy and the second top goal scorer. He was third last year, second the year before, and first the year before that. So he has pedigree of being there or thereabouts, but obviously to be the top point scorer is pretty hard going.
Yeah.
Now, I think that there's a few things here. Fernandes, he did take that penalty against Villa, but I think his points are likely to dip with Ronaldo being a bit more of I think Ronaldo will end up on penalties. I think set pieces will get moved around a little more. I think he might dip a little bit. Kane obviously starting poorly. He's behind the 8 ball. I mean, he's already about 40 odd points basically off Salah, which is very much turnaroundable, but it's going to be obviously a battle for him. It's not looking great. And then City rotation and probably injuries will cost De Bruyne, I think, a little bit. And then Ronaldo is kind of a bit of an unknown factor. I think that as good as he's started, I think your Antonios and co will probably go back a little bit to the middle. And I think Liverpool, Salah's already rotated out, and Liverpool are set to be title contenders, probably not win, but contenders. So I think that this is the year Big Mo gets his crown back. I think this is true. I think that he looks frightening this year, and it makes my heart break that he is playing for Morris and no longer on the nudes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting one, because when you told me that we were going to do this true or false, he was one of the ones I did, but I flipped it the other way, saying he's not going to be the top scorer.
Interesting. What makes you think that?
Oh, I don't know. Anything could happen because he could get a really bad injury or something, or or some other unknown. I mean, Lukaku's joined Premier League as well, hasn't he, this season? So he could be a contender, I reckon. But yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking. I just looked at the list and went, "Oh, Salah's top. Let's say he's not going to be top at the end of the season," sort of thing. But yeah,
I think obviously it's very hard to do. Like even in being top at this stage, I think that again, even though he's been ultra consistent and is kind of like the one that everyone wants, he hasn't won it he's won it once in the last 3 years. So it's still very hard to do. I think Lukaku's obviously like a really good shout, because I think he's just going to play week in, week out for a very good Chelsea team. He's also won. I think that I just think that if I was picking first every year, I'd be taking Salah just because of the extra points that you get as a midfielder in terms of obviously clean sheets and stuff as well, with a good defence behind him.
Yeah,
he's rarely rotated. He's just clearly the top dog there, and he's so consistent. Like he's approaching, well, he pretty much is like Kane levels of consistency of just week in, week out. Just you can book him for a goal or an assist, basically. And he's digging Morris out holes every week, so no doubt he will score against me.
Well, we'll see. A couple of weeks. Who have they got in a couple of weeks?
Good question. They have. I think it was next week because they've got City next week. That'd be great. Oh, yeah, they have Watford, so he is gonna score an insane amount of goals against Watford. He'll probably score 6. Great.
Well, we'll see. Yeah. Sorry.
But yeah, that was. I didn't know if you had any to throw out, but that was kind of just a few that
I've got one because obviously you covered my Salah one, but I've got another one which is more linked to our league, if you like. So I've gone with the league winner is currently not in the top half of the league.
Ooh, I like that. That is juicy. Now, looking at it, I have to agree with you. 1, because I'm there, and 2, because you do see that. Obviously, what happened with Will last year. The longer, if you're at the bottom for the earliest part of the season, even up to January, if you're kind of around that 7th, 8th mark, that you've got pieces there, it's just not clicking. And then obviously January transfer window comes in, and some extra players, you might be able to pick up 1 or 2 great signings and stuff. And I do think that this year is so much closer already. If I was had to say, I'm going to say true.
Okay, that's interesting. I just threw it out there. I don't actually know. I mean, because obviously I don't want to count myself out. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. I think, like we touched on earlier, because it is such a close, league at the moment. By the end of the season, we could see a totally different top 6, top 8, and all be in contention with winning it in that last game week. So it's exciting, I think, for sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see because obviously Tom and Tolly surged at the league last year after struggling for a little bit.
Yeah.
Same with Will. But then it'd be interesting who don't know the stats that backdated, but I think the first year I was in it, I think me and Will both started well out the gate, and last year I started well out the gate. So I don't know if there's a precedent, and I imagine Will's probably started well the other years he won. So it might be a case of that the bottom half ones surge up the league but can't quite catch the people that have started quick out the blocks. But we shall see. I hope you're right.
It'd be interesting. I think I'll be amazed. I mean, this would be insane if it's either you or Will winning it again. So there's still only ever 2 people that have won it. That would be mad.
It would, especially in 12 people. I mean, it would be. It's so hard. Like again, I was speaking to Tolly, I think, about this. It feels this season more that when you have a bit of a bad week, it's not like a 30-pointer. It's like low 20s, like really, really low. I mean, again, a couple of 25s. Obviously, last year would have been like 25, but then every week there's a few kind of like proper low ones.
Yeah.
So it's just, if you can stay north of 40 points average week in, week out, I think you're going to be doing pretty well come the end.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think that was a good segment. Leave a comment down below if you agree with, Jack's assessment of those true or falses.
Or disagree. Let's embrace debate.
Yeah.
If
you disagree, put forward your view for the other, going the other way. So, and then we'll try and see if we can, the ones that are, they're all to do with the end of the season, aren't they? So we'll have to keep a track and and see which ones do become true and which ones are false, depending on how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we can review, and then hopefully I'll be right across the board. But I imagine something crazy will happen that will probably prove me wrong. Yeah, we shall see. Interesting. The best part is there is such a long season to go.
Yeah,
and I love it. I can't wait.
Okay, I think that brings us to the end. Thanks for coming on, Jack. Pleasure as always.
Cheers, Luke. Loved it. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Great segment again. And yeah, we'll maybe add some more next time you're on. I still haven't done a schedule, so I don't actually know if people are going to get to be back on again this season with 12 people and I'm not doing it every game week. So we'll see. But maybe we'll do somewhere we get multiple people on. I don't know. But who knows? Lots of things we can do. So we'll leave it there. Thanks again. Please do like the video, and as we've said, leave a comment if you agree with Jack or disagree, and please subscribe if you're not subscribed, because it does help us out. And as always, this is the DraftCast, and remember, draft is life. See you next time.